Hello and welcome to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health, Urgent Care, and Total Rehab. I'm Wes Decker. As always, it's great to have you along. Coming up on the show this week, Andy Mason and Dan Kaufman will be here to talk cross country and volleyball, respectively. We'll catch you up on what's been going on in golf. We have some state qualifiers to discuss. And in football, 4 weeks now in the books. St. James football players in the house before the show's over. And we'll start with that football. Bob Parsaliti joins me in just a moment.
When your family is hurting, you don't have time to wait. Act now. Visit Meritus Urgent Care on Pennsylvania Avenue. Open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meritus Urgent Care treats minor conditions like earaches, sore throats, and sprains. Meritus Urgent Care also offers x-rays and sports physicals, and many prescriptions are filled on site. Located off Interstate 81 on Pennsylvania Avenue, visit Meritus Urgent Care. Expert care, close to home.
Behind every great child, there is a great foundation. Premier Martial Arts will empower your child and give them a premier foundation to success. Our instructors have the passion to teach classes designed to build premier skills. Your child will develop greater self-control, confidence, and concentration. Premier Martial Arts will take your child up the path of greatness. Call Premier Martial Arts today.
Welcome back to the show. We continue with football now, and for that I bring in Herald Mail insider Bob Parsaliti. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's start with this Boonesboro team. Are we impressed with Boonesboro at this point? 4-0, a 20-12 win over Middletown on Friday.
This is what they would probably call a hallmark win for them. I mean, it's a new trying to bring back an old rivalry. That victory was only the fourth time in about 30 times that Boonesboro had beaten them. So, I mean, it's a big mark for them. But it's what makes it even bigger, especially since they're Class A now, is they beat a 2A team.
That's right.
So all the points that come from that and all the points that are going to be coming from Catoctin, those all are going to make it bigger and better for Boonesboro to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, no question about that. It's a whole different world in 1A, as Coach Andrews talked about before the season even began. And I think this Boonesboro defense continues to impress, too. And the offense, again, Alex Wetzel, who would have figured after 4 games that Alex Wetzel would be tied for the team lead in touchdowns in terms of receptions? You don't often see that at Boonesboro.
No, but the other part of that is going into last week, they had 17 receptions, and he had 8 of them.
Yeah.
So he is the main target. And in a sense, using him being a tight end, he does get downfield, but he's also a ball possession type guy for them.
Right. Yeah, he is. He's certainly the go-to guy. And coming up on Friday, Boonesboro tries to go to 5-0. They'll take on Williamsport. Williamsport, a team that just can't seem to get a break, and they couldn't get out of their own way against Berkeley Springs on Friday night, losing 14-13. Kayvon Carter's touchdown run put the Wildcats on top, but then tied at 7 late in the second quarter. Williamsport experienced a costly sequence. First, a go-ahead Wildcat touchdown, erased by a holding penalty, followed by some poor clock management that moments later denied the field goal unit a chance to even put points on the board before halftime. And then in the second half, after they score a touchdown, unable to convert an extra point, which ultimately cost them in the end. And that's a game that Williamsport really could ill afford to lose, because you're going to be 2-2 with a victory over a team that didn't have a win coming in, or now you're 1-3. So things don't look quite as good when you're 1-3.
Well, I mean, Williamsport's full of youth. I mean, they have a lot of guys. They had a lot of guys graduate last year that were mainstays, and they're trying to move the pieces around, make them work. It seems like that they're on the job training, yeah. And sometimes that's painful.
Yeah, it was on Friday. I mean, that was a real tough one. Williamsport won last year against Boonesboro, which is the game coming up on Friday, but has dropped 13 of its last 15 to the Warriors. So that's been a tough series for them. Clear Spring over Hancock, 35-0 on Friday night. The Blazers led just 14-0 when they took over at their own 42-yard line with 1:11 left to play in the first half. What followed was stunning. It was a 5-play, 49-second scoring drive, then a kickoff gaffe that gave Clear Spring the ball at the Panther 16, followed by a touchdown pass as time expired in the second quarter to put Clear Spring firmly in control, 28-0. Could have been a one-score game going to halftime, All of a sudden, it's a 4-score game, and Hancock just could not get back into it in the second half. Clear Spring scores early, get the running clock going. So Clear Spring now 3-1. Very important in 1A West, Bob, because you look at how competitive it is there. 7 of the 9 teams with a 500 record or better right now. So if you're north of 500 at this point, you're headed in the right direction if you're looking toward the postseason.
Well, and you know, both of these teams, Hancock and Clear Spring, have a very small margin for error because of the size of their teams. For Clear Spring, the big thing is they ran the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they don't run, they don't do much. I mean, as they proven by Manchester Valley last week, they held Joel McCoy to 27 yards yesterday, or last past week. He had 204. Makes a big difference.
168 in the first half alone.
Yeah.
So he really set the tone for them. I expected Hancock to be a little bit better running the football because they really had a three-headed approach to it. They have 3 guys who can carry the load and had essentially the same amount of yards coming into that game as McCoy, but they just could never really get anything established. So the Blazers now at 3-1 will host 2-2 Northern Garrett, and Hancock hosts 1-3 Washington. Both of those games coming up on Saturday. Linganore and South Hagerstown, the game that you covered. The Rebels early on came in riding a 10-game home winning streak, and 234 in. South did something it failed to do in playoff games each of the previous 2 seasons. It took the lead, and the problem for South was not taking the lead, it was maintaining the lead against Linganore, and Linganore kind of wore them down in the end to win by 18 points.
Well, what South did well early was they controlled the tempo, because a Linganore team wants to beat you up on the line of scrimmage. South used its speed to its advantage and took quick leads. The only problem was it took a short amount of time for Linganore to erase them. I mean, it was like a couple of them was just a matter of seconds. And then in the end, in the second half, they got the tempo to their side. Linganore slowed it down. They found an answer to slow down Darian Robinson and stop him from running as wild. Meanwhile, South got pounded on the front line and had no answer for Devontae Butler, who is a very, very good running back.
Yes, he is. He's very elusive, and he can also run with some power, too. South finished with 366 yards of offense, but just 115 came after halftime. And that was a second half for South Hagerstown where they had 6 possessions, 5 of them crossed midfield, but never scored a point in the second half. And Linganore comes away with a very important win in 3A West as South drops to 2-2 now. Will host 2-2 Westminster coming up on Friday. Incidentally, for South Hagerstown in that game, we talked a little bit about their defense last week and how they've looked so good, and they didn't look terrible against Linganore by any means, but no Austin Shelton on the field, and that certainly hurts their cause there.
Well, and and Butler had a way of making them look bad too. You know, I mean, he was one of those guys that just kind of shuffles along the line, and all of a sudden sees a hole and he's through it. So I mean, you know, pursuit and staying home kind of had a seam in there, and he got through them.
And very frustrating for South, too. In the first half, they were up 20-14. They kick off. They wind up recovering a Linganore fumble on that kickoff, and they don't get any points out of it. Yeah. They go down, and they wind up missing a field goal after that, and South, in the end, just comes up short in a game that obviously was very important, again, to both sides, and a real slugfest between 2 heavyweights there. Westminster over North Hagerstown by a score of 28-0. The Westminster scoring drives in that game, 9, 31, 15, and then 53 yards. But what I'm getting at is Westminster didn't have to go a long way to put points on the board. North Hagerstown turning the ball over way too much, kind of gift-wrapping field position for Westminster, something that any team really just can't do, especially when you're playing on the road.
Penalties and turnovers have been the problem with a very young North Hagerstown team. Chase Metz stepped up, I guess, in the quarterback, and you know, he led him with like 62 yards of passing, but you know, they don't seem to have a lot of weapons that are consistent. No. T.J. Harris had 81 yards rushing.
Yeah, again, a very young team, just like we talked about earlier when you look at Williamsport. And by the time that North takes the field on Friday night against Smithsburg, they'll have gone 698 days since the last time they won a game. That's just a long time. Catoctin over Smithsburg, 30-23. The Leopards won't be in a good mood after squandering a 7-point lead with less than 5 minutes remaining last Friday when they take the field against North this week. Cole Huntsberry, though, continued that ball-hawking defense. 2 more interceptions, now 12 for the Leopards through 4 games. Smithsburg now 2-2 on the season. So that is our look at football for week number 4. Next week will be midway through the season, so maybe we'll have some report cards and things like that. We'll see.
We'll see.
Bob, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
I'll be back right after this. I've got 3 St. James football players who will be right here on the set in just a moment.
Excuse me, you realize this television's on a channel with men in silk robes slapping each other? Maybe we could just switch it to where the athletes are wearing shoes?
This gentleman and this gentleman want to know if we can change his channel.
I love karate. He doesn't like karate.
No, me?
You don't like karate?
I love it. Are you kidding? I was telling you how much I want to join a dojo. Could you recommend a dojo?
Buffalo Wild Wings, 21 sauces and seasonings, tons of taps, and countless flat screens. Nowhere is sports more alive.
Yeah, how can we help you today? I really need to get back to work.
Whether it's going back to work or getting back on the golf course, Total Rehab Care maximizes every patient's individual potential, offering state-of-the-art rehab, including physical, occupational, and speech therapy, all in one location. Experts who take a personal interest in their patients' progress. Call or visit online for more information. Meritus Health, treating the community well.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined now by 3 St. James Saints. The Saints victorious on Friday over Maryland School for the Deaf, 37-30. I'm joined by Cole Menas, Michael Craker, and Tyler Raymond Groshot. Welcome to the show, guys. It's a pleasure to have you here. I always feel underdressed when St. James comes in for some reason, but you guys look terrific. Look good on Friday night, too. Tyler, let me start with you. The team did get off to a little bit of a slow start on Friday night. But you have to feel good about getting the win, coming back. The defense really asserted itself in the second half, outscored them 15-0 to pull away and win that game by 7. Take me through that game a little bit and just the way that it unfolded.
Oh, man, it was definitely a very exciting game. You know, us Saints, you know, we faced adversity the whole game. It was methodically up and down the field, then Maryland School for the Deaf, up and down the field. We would have a couple stands. You know, our offense came out. We would go down the field and score. Defense would hold them. You know, there were a few times where we didn't capitalize, which allowed the game to be closer than it should have. But then again, you know, the whole night through adversity, you know, we kept battling. We ended up winning the game on a drive. And then defense came up with a big interception. Cole Menas actually had that interception. That's what secured the game. We ended up needing the clock out.
Yeah, I feel like you're almost doing my job at this point. Cole, talk a little bit about that interception at the end.
It was kind of, it wasn't needed, but I mean, I just wanted to catch it so we could get back to we're not in our own end zone, so it's not, and we're out a little bit. But I mean, if I was just batted down, it probably would have been same result.
Well, you had batted one down earlier in the game where they had a fly pattern going down the middle of the field potentially for a big score right there. What was working for you defensively on Friday night?
It's new playing corner since I haven't played in a while, but I'm getting back into the rhythm of it, and it wasn't my zone, but I helped Mechie out a little bit and just ran over there and batted it down.
Yeah, you and John have been awfully good this year, offensively and defensively for that matter.
Quite the duo.
Yeah, no question. And Michael, as far as the line play is concerned right now, you know, it seems like the running game started to click a little bit on Friday night. Defensively, you guys really were able to shut them down in the second half. What's going on there? Because this is such a young team. Talk a little bit about what it takes for a line to gel.
What it really needs to do is we need to come together as brothers. Like earlier we weren't really communicating very well, and then now we've started to talk and work together, and coaching helps a lot too. Like our coach, a lot of the ways we stepped up on Friday was from adjustments and moving people around to get into the right spot to be able to stop them. And it's just working together.
And Cole, how important is it to get a win like the one you got on Friday night, a team that was previously undefeated, now with huge MAC games coming up on the schedule?
It's really important for us to get wins under our belt, because when we get against these big teams, I mean, if we do end up losing, I mean, it's not like they're going to beat us by a touchdown or so. It's going to be by a bunch of points. So we just need to get wins under our belts so we can get used to coming back if we need to come back later in the game.
Yeah, a big confidence builder on Friday in that respect. And Tyler, you know, I've never done this before with a player here in person, but you're our Buffalo Wild Wings Player of the Week from this past week. I know you didn't know that was coming, but the statistics: 14 for 21, 233 yards, 4 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, and a couple of 2-point passes in that game. What was going right for you? Because it doesn't seem like much was going wrong. So how were you able to have such a big game and be the Buffalo Wild Wings Player of the Week?
Oh, I mean, well, honestly, you know, it always boils down to the team. I mean, at the end of the day, you watch that film, you see I was sitting back there all day making reads because my O-line gave me the time. You know, Mikey, right guard there, giving me time. And then that one of the final touchdowns, you know, that put the icing on the cake, 37-30. That was Cole. You know, I threw it up. Cole made an amazing catch. So at the end of the day, you know, it's these guys that are really helping me have the success that I'm having. And honestly, we're doing it all together. It's not just me having the success. He's having success. We're all having success.
And I talked about this being such a young team. Obviously, you set a county record last year for touchdown passes, 24 of them. At this point in the season, you already are on your way to breaking that. You have one extra game this season, too. Do those individual records mean anything to you, or what do they mean to you versus the success of the team? Because obviously you are very team-oriented.
You know, honestly, I mean, records are something, you know, it's cool to say, you know, I got that record, that record's in my name. But at the end of the day, you know, you don't really want that record in your name. I wish it could have been St. James Saints passing touchdown record, because I'm throwing the ball. I mean, somebody still has to catch it. Somebody still has to give me the time to do it. So really, that's not all me. My name should not be the only one under that thing. It should be my linemen, my receivers, heck, even the coaches making the play calls.
Yeah, there's a lot that contributes to that, no question.
100%.
Very, very much a pleasure on my part to have met you guys today. Thank you for coming in. Best of luck against Potomac School coming up this week and for the rest of the season ahead. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I'll be back right after this. The show continues with Dan Kaufman and Andy Mason here in just a moment.
When your family is hurting, you don't have time to wait. Act now. Visit Meritus Urgent Care on Pennsylvania Avenue. Open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meritus Urgent Care treats minor conditions like earaches, sore throats, and sprains. Meritus Urgent Care also offers x-rays and sports physicals, and many prescriptions are filled on site. Located off Interstate 81 on Pennsylvania Avenue, visit Meritus Urgent Care. Expert care, close to home.
Behind every great child, there is a great foundation. Premier Martial Arts will empower your child and give them a premier foundation to success. Our instructors have the passion to teach classes designed to build premier skills. Your child will develop greater self-control, confidence, and concentration. Premier Martial Arts will take your child up the path of greatness. Call Premier Martial Arts today.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue now with Herald Mail Insiders Andy Mason and Dan Kaufman. Dan, let me turn to you first. Volleyball, talked about it a little bit on the show last week, the win by Williamsport over North Hagerstown, but you wanted to expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, because it's clearly the big match that's happened so far this season. And, you know, I got to thinking about it for a little bit. You know, does this tell us more about Williamsport, how much improved the Wildcats program is this year, or does it tell us more about North maybe taking a couple steps back following a lot of graduations? And I kind of crunched some numbers and things like that. I really think it says more about Williamsport and the level that they've come to. You know, last year, before the season, they lost 8 seniors to graduation, and they were kind of lacking offensive weapons a little bit. I mean, they had Alexis Klein, who also happened to graduate following last season, and she was kind of their top overall player. Brent Lewis did some for them as well, but in general, they were lacking kind of that offensive firepower, that punch that they could go to end points, and so they struggled when they played some of the other county teams. And it's like, coming into this season, are they going to find that offensive weaponry? And I didn't know that they would, but as it turns out, Devin Grossbeck has stepped up big. I mean, when I saw them play Westminster 2 days before the North match, Devin Grossbeck was the star of that match. She really impressed me. And then they've got this freshman, Kiara Lewis, who has just been on fire. 21 kills in the North match. She had 21 kills in her next match as well. It's almost unheard of to hear of a freshman, and especially a freshman at Williamsport, putting up these kinds of numbers and making this kind of an impact. So now, and Bryn Lewis is still there as well, so now all of a sudden you've got 3 legitimate weapons Williamsport's, it's been that was an eye-opening week for them, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, they're a 2A state title contender.
And it makes it so much easier for a senior setter in Sammy Raid, who is so good anyway,
absolutely.
when she can set not just to one particular player. And the other team's like, well, where's it going to come from?
And Devin and Kiara are both middles primarily. I mean, they can swing around wherever they need to be. But, so now there's no rotation where Williamsport doesn't have somebody that if they really need to end that point that they can go to. And they're always so good defensively. I mean, fundamentally, they're always solid. Coach Crabtree does a great job with that, and the feeder program at Springfield does a good job with that. So now you put the offensive firepower in with that, and wow. I mean, Williamsport's the surprise of the season to me so far.
So do we now have 3 legitimate threats for Washington County?
It sure looks
like
it again. I mean, is the question's still out on North in 3A a little bit. And look, both 3A and 2A are tough. I don't want to say that it's a cakewalk for anybody. But, I mean, this is starting to shape up like 2012 again, where you did have North, Williamsport, and Smithsburg all being serious contenders, and it's exciting. And it's exciting for the regular season, too, because now you got a Smithsburg-North matchup to look forward to, a Smithsburg-Williamsport match. Yeah, these are fun times again.
It smacks of that just a little bit,
absolutely.
Andy, let me turn to you. Cross country, the big bull run this past Saturday. What did we learn from that?
Well, we learned that Darren Harmon and Haley Wright are very good runners. Well, we actually already knew that.
Sort of validated
that. Yeah, we learned that. I mean, they both were champions there. It's a huge invitational, large school boys race. Darren Harmon, senior at South, just obliterates the field. Wins the large school boys race in 16:21, won by 34 seconds. Last year's bull run was sort of his coming out party. He finished second overall in 17:06. This year he's 45 seconds faster, wins the race. And the neat thing about Bull Run is in 6 weeks, they're, mid-November, they're back there for the state meet.
Yeah, so this is a huge measuring stick, I think, in the long. And for Haley Wright, it was just time for her really to get back.
Yeah, she was sick to start the season. Had 2 DNFs, her first 2 meets of the year. She didn't finish. She was sick, but she's back on track. She won the small school girls title in 1908. Last year she won it in 1905. It was probably her best race of the year. This year she wins in 1908, edged Oakland Mills' Britt Lang by 2 seconds, but she got the win. Still a fantastic time. Haley ran 19:16 at States last year. She was faster than her state meet time. Great race for her too.
Yeah, so impressive all around there. And the Boonesboro girls.
Yeah, pretty sure the first time all season they beat Smithsburg. They finished 3rd in the small school race. Smithsburg was 6th. Smithsburg's the reigning Washington County champion, 1A champion. Now Boonesboro, now Boonesboro's going to be in the mix for both those titles. It's going to come down to both of them for Smithsburg and Boonesboro girls for those titles again this
We
year.
have a lot of fun to look forward to before this season concludes. In golf, at the 2A 1A District 1 tournament last Tuesday at Black Rock, Smithsburg sophomore Brett Bale fired a 75. That was good for a tie for 3rd individually. And even with Jordan Tapley's 76 and Alden Grosh's 82, as all 3 qualified for states for a 2nd straight year, it wasn't quite enough to earn the Leopards a berth as a team. Meantime, Boonesboro qualified 4. Senior Sydney Alexander for the 4th consecutive time, and Sabrina Manganaro will go to College Park to vie for the girls' championship, while Jordan Rowe and Travis Moats will represent the Warrior boys there October 26th through 28th. And the Boonesboro contingent will roll in with momentum it's never had before following Monday's surprise victory as a team at the county tourney at Fountainhead. Alexander, Rowe, and Moats received a boost from the return to better health of 2014 state qualifier Tyler Olson, as the 4 carded a collective 333 total, 7 strokes better than runner-up North Hagerstown. The Hub's Dylan Klein settled for 2nd individually, 2, edged on the final hole by Smithsburg's Tapley. Incidentally, it was the 2nd year in a row a Leopard captured medalist honors, and the first time in 9 years that neither Smithsburg nor North took home the team title. Emerging with the title is the goal this Saturday evening at South Hagerstown School Stadium when the county soccer championship matches are played. The girls are up first at 6 when the reigning and defending champs from Smithsburg kick off against Williamsport, the team that bested the Leopards for the trophy in 2013. And then the Williamsport boys attempt to rekindle their 2013 championship magic when they take on a Clear Spring squad anticipating the return of 2014 Inside Sports Player of the Year, Jarrett Lozich. That one is scheduled to get underway at 8. When the show continues, Kaufman will have been shown the door. Andy gets to stay, and the two of us will go into overtime right after this.
Excuse me, you realize this television's on a channel with men in silk robes slapping each other? Maybe we could just switch it to where the athletes are wearing shoes?
This gentleman and this gentleman want to know if we can change his channel.
I love karate. He doesn't like karate.
No, me?
You don't like karate?
I love it.
Are you kidding? I was telling you how much I want to join a dojo. Could you recommend a dojo?
Buffalo Wild Wings, 21 sauces and seasonings, tons of taps, and countless flat screens. Nowhere is sports more alive.
For over 25 years, Tony's Pizzeria has been serving authentic Italian cuisine. Open daily for lunch and dinner. Stop by today and enjoy one of their many house favorites, made fresh from scratch daily, in the newly expanded and remodeled dining area. Serving a full liquor bar, beer and wine, Tony's 50-person banquet room is perfect for your next celebration. Dine in, take out, or delivery. Come see what's new at Tony's Pizzeria Restaurant and Grill, 10 East Salisbury Street in Williamsport.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health, Urgent Care, and Total Rehab. It's time for overtime. And first up today, Andy Mason.
My favorite month finally is here, October. What's not to like about it? The weather is ideal, NFL and college football are in full swing, and the Major League Baseball playoffs finally will arrive. The pace also starts picking up in another one of my favorite sports, cross country. Few athletic contests are as pure as cross country. There's a start line and a finish line, with plenty of distance in between to test every runner's speed and endurance as they compete for their place in the race. Unlike many sports, neither referees nor coaching politics have much to do with the outcome in cross-country races. Although cross-country can be a difficult sport, the nature of it is beautiful in its simplicity. I was reminded of that again last Saturday morning as I watched my 4th grade son and nearly 1,000 other kids compete in the 34th annual Washington County Public Schools cross-country run at Eastern Elementary. The 4th and 5th graders ran a 1-mile course, while the 3rd grade distance was a little shorter at 1,000 meters. Many kids were well prepared for the event, and there were many kids who were not. But the goal was the same: complete the course as quickly as possible, or just complete it. The top 30 finishers in each of the 6 races were awarded medals and ribbons, and most of the other finishers were just that, finishers. By reaching the finish line, they still knew they got the job done, as the countless post-race smiles seemed to indicate. In front of the large crowd of families, friends, and teachers, the young kids competed and performed, covering a distance they might not run again until next year's elementary race. The event was a great way to cap off the month of September. And now my favorite month is here.
Yeah, it's a real charming event. There's no question about it. Well put on, well organized, and I just can't believe in October you wouldn't have mentioned my birthday or Halloween, but that's okay. I won't take it personally. I'd like to share the thought process with you about the high school football games we televise on Antietam Cable. After all, based on game results, sometimes you have to wonder why we chose a particular game, and that's a fair question. And here's the criteria we consider to arrive at that answer. First and foremost is our attempt, almost to a fault, to provide the highest degree of equity relative to coverage of our county teams. Second is trying to fit those games into an otherwise busy schedule of other fall local origination events on Antietam Cable's schedule, including Showcase of Bands and the Alsatian Mummers Parade. Third is choosing from matchups that fall into those windows that appear to have some semblance of competitiveness built in. And fourth is the location of said potential games. So those are the factors we weigh. Now, by the time we're on site the day of the game, I say to everyone and anyone who will listen, I just hope for a good competitive game. Believe me, airing an exciting game where the outcome is in doubt until the very end is so much better for everyone involved. Our director, our camera ops, the announcers, you, the viewer, but not necessarily the players and coaches. Whether our cameras are there or not, they're trying to win, not create drama. Therefore, not every game we cover turns out to be made for TV, but ultimately it still shows up there. Hopefully our efforts serve to create a nice little video memory and keepsake for the players who play in that game that years later will increase in value, to them anyway, regardless of what the outcome was. Having said that, with 2 regular season TV games remaining, is it too much to hope for just a small dose of Empire, The Americans, or even Pretty Little Liars? I'd settle for any of that sometimes when you just walk away from one of those events. Andy, thanks for being here this week.
Thank you, Wes.
And thanks to all of you for watching. And next week on the show, county soccer tournament champions should be here on the set, so long as the games are played. Plus, more football. We'll be halfway through the season at that point, and much, much more. Until then, I'll see you on the inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers.